So hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another edition of Cerdant Bytes. Joining me today is Kayvon Sadeghi from SonicWall, Executive Director of Product Marketing. Kayvon, did I get your last name right?
You got it right.
Perfect. I practiced a little bit beforehand. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your time at SonicWall, and what your focus is.
Sure. So I am the Executive Director for Product Marketing. I run the product marketing for SonicWall. I've been here for roughly a year and a half now. I come from a network security background and been with companies like McAfee and Symantec before I joined here.
Nice. So you've seen a little bit of everything.
Yes, I have.
So you are joining me today so that I can pick your brain and we can discuss what is now SonicWall's sixth consecutive ISCA Labs certification of the Capture Advanced Threat Protection platform. So
It's
obviously
something,
yeah, it is a mouthful. Obviously something that's very important to Cerdant as a longtime SonicWall partner, and is very important to SonicWall as well. But I'd like to dig in and start with some general background questions on the ISCA, just to make sure our audience here has a general base knowledge, because obviously you've got organizations, previous organizations like NSS Labs that was very well known, and I believe I personally am very familiar with the ISCA, but I'd love a little bit of background if you can provide some.
Sure, absolutely. So ICSA is actually a independent division of Verizon. It was acquired by Verizon a few years ago, but as a company, they've been around for 30 plus years. I think 1989 is when they were established. They're known for their testing and certification processes. They usually go around and do certification on security, compliance, the reliability of the appliances, the performance, speed and feeds, and things of that nature. They've been in the industry for a long time, and they do cover everything from VPN to SD-WAN appliances to firewall to advanced threat detection, even email security, you name it.
Okay.
More than likely they have a certification for that appliance.
So it's really, really comprehensive. And I'm sure firewalls is something they've probably tested since just about the beginning of time, but it's obviously probably evolved, the same way that firewalls have evolved over time.
Yeah, they're actually well known for their firewall testing, because obviously firewall was one of the first appliances that came out.
Right.
So they really started from there and expanded into other areas.
Okay. So SonicWall, so kind of shifting to the SonicWall specific piece of the certification. So SonicWall's certification is very specifically tied to the Advanced Threat Defense cert. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that's really another way of saying a sandboxing technology. So ISCA Labs Advanced Threat Defense is really the test and certification that they do for the sandboxing technologies that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we can talk about the significance of the cert, take a step back a little bit. What in the recent release of the mid-year SonicWall threat report kind of points to the significance of this particular certification? Okay.
Yeah. So SonicWall recently released a threat report for the first half of 2021. And if you look at that report, there's an interesting pattern that emerges. If you look at the overall malware, the volume has gone down. There's actually a 22% decrease in the overall malware volume. But if you look at the individual attack vectors, whether it's intrusion attempt, whether it's the IoT attacks, encryption threats, everything else has gone up. Significant in that thread is the ransomware attack. There was a 151% increase on the overall malware attacks that was registered in the first 6 months. And specific to that is the fact that there was a 185% increase in the US alone. UK registered 144% increase. And if you look at EMEA, Europe, as a whole, there's a 234% increase in the overall malware attack. So what that really means is that the era of spray and pray is basically over. You got very sophisticated adversaries out there, sometimes backed by state nations, that are coming after you and specifically targeting you. The implication there is that you can no longer go back to your standard, antivirus solution that's signature-based and hope that it would detect the malware that's coming at you. You need to have something specific that's able to detect zero-day attacks and targeted attacks at you. And that's where the AI engines built into some of the sandboxes come into play.
Okay, so we're dealing with a certification that is specifically built for auditing and certifying products built to detect zero-day attacks. And that is where, just to your point, and as the results of the mid-year threat report kind of deliver, there is very little that is not zero day. It's so easy to create zero day anymore.
Yeah. So if you look at the methodology that ICSA uses, they're looking at both known attack and unknown zero-day attacks. Okay. So it makes sure that you're protected against the known stuff, so they don't use older attacks or malware to penetrate your environment. But they also look at the 0 days and brand new malwares in order to make sure that there's nothing new and unknown that comes through and passes through your security defense system.
Perfect. Clearly important right now. So tell me about the planning that goes into preparing for this certification. What all is involved on your side, on the SonicWall side, in preparing for this?
That's a good question. Interestingly enough, there's little involvement from our side. And let me explain what that means. First of all, they don't share with you what kind of malware they're going to send your way. So it's very useless for you to start planning for it. You have to build and configure your environment so the way you would do for your standard customers out there. The second thing is that it's not that you send the box, they test it and send it back to you till the next test. You send them a box, you configure it, and then you have to leave it there. It stays there for the duration of the test. They do the test, they release the result, and then the next quarter it stays there. Next quarter they do the same thing. So short of your regular updates that you do to your technology, you don't really go out there and play and configure anything. And if you have set it up to be automatically updated, really beside the initial setup at the beginning of your relationship with ICSA, there's not much that you do as far as preparation goes for a test. It's automated on their side. You let them run and they give you the result.
And that's, I think, an especially important thing to point out, because lots of things you can prepare for. I'll use the example of Cerdant's PCI level 1 service provider compliance, our annual audit. It's obviously something very important to us from a compliance and an auditing standpoint to be able to validate to the customers and customer environments that we protect that we are in fact holding ourselves to the same security standards that we are recommending to them. But at the end of the day, it is something that initially we prepare for, but really is something too that is a regular maintenance piece of things and something that isn't like studying for a test. And I think this especially is probably one of the more unknown things when it comes to third-party industry validation, is that it's not something that everybody has a set list of what's a good word, rules of engagement, I'll say, for something like this. You're preparing for a scenario and then you do it and then you get a certain grade. It's not like that. It's really testing the efficacy and the everyday readiness of the solution and of the product for an unknown battery of tests.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing that really keeps it valid.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought it up, because you mentioned some of the names out there in the industry. Some of the certification companies have a dedicated or have a certain areas that they concentrate on, or that's their area of expertise. Okay, some of them do certification on detection rate, some of them do it on price per performance, the throughput of the box, and so on and so forth. What ICSA does that I like is they're really measuring two contradictory areas. Okay, they're looking at your accuracy, detection rate, as well as your false positive. Now, if you were measuring one of these two, if you were doing accuracy, it was very easy for me to go and tighten my rules to make sure that I capture every malware, but more than likely that would have increased the false positive rates on my box to go skyrocket. Or I could turn around and make the rules very loose and make my false positive rates low, but then my detection rate would also go low with it. The thing with ICSA is that because they're measuring both of them at the same time, you're forced to optimize your rules to detect as many malware as possible and as little false positive as you can. And that's something that your average customer, your true customer, should be looking for. You want the highest protection with the lowest false positive possible.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the false positive piece of things, because I mean, there are a lot of F words out there in the world, but especially in the security industry, I think false positive is probably the real F word in a lot of customer environments. So that I can certainly validate from customer conversations that is massively important, because if someone is sifting through, mountains of false positives, they will a lot of times sacrifice security to avoid the workload that comes with false positives.
Absolutely.
So tell me about just, from your perspective from SonicWall's, but really, and I can validate from the customer side of things. Why is this certification such a big deal as it relates to capture ATP, advanced threat protection?
So when you look at this latest test that just came out, ICSA threw 1,144 test scenarios at us. This was a combination of both actual malware and what I'm calling benign, what they call it at innocuous applications. And the idea was that you want to capture obviously all the malwares and you want to have the lowest false positive. We did 100% detection on the malware with 0 false positive. The reason that this is important is because this is the second time in a row that we've got what we call a perfect score, 100% detection, 0 false positive. And this is the 6th consecutive quarter in a row that we've received the certification. That is, I don't want to call it unique, but that's very hard to achieve. And if you look at it, the reason that we're able to do that is there's a technology behind a capture ATP called RTDMI, which stands for real-time deep memory inspection, and that is the engine that helps us detect the zero-day attacks. Why that is important is because if you go back to the threat report that we were talking at the beginning of the discussion, we registered 54% increase on malwares that were detected by RTDMI. These are usually brand new zero-day attacks that are not known out there. This again shows you that the threat landscape is changing, and people are, instead of going out there and throwing old stuff at you, they're coming with a brand new technologies and zero-day attacks. And that's why having RTDMI makes the significant importance and difference that you see compared to some of the other players that are in the market. Right.
And to your point too, with the 2nd consecutive perfect score and the 6th straight quarter, when I was looking at those stats, with this most recent, the news of the most recent certification, I used my best Google skills to go out and look and see if I could find anyone else with, that could boast some similar stats. And to your point, like you said, it's not unheard of, but it is not common. It is certainly not common. I could not find many, and not any, I think, worth naming, to be completely honest. And and that's, yeah, no small thing.
Yeah,
No small thing.
it's very hard to come up. It's very hard to find a vendor that's been able to do that
Right.
in the past few years, at least.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, especially with this, consistency in is everything, and obviously the innovation is everything, to your point, and especially that's clear throughout the threat report, is the only thing constant is change, especially when it comes to cybersecurity and the threat landscape. It just continues to change every single day. And I can, really validate from the customer standpoint, from these certifications, how really important they are when it comes to the peace of mind and the technology, and really getting the buy-in from top down. And the technology is just about I truly cannot think of a customer when we're speaking about SonicWall as a solution that does not ask or does not expect to see reporting on third-party validation, because anybody can say that their product works and have lots of beautiful marketing behind it, but it's that third-party validation that really provides the peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hear that all the time from our side as well. Marketing is great, but show me the meat behind it. How do you justify the numbers that you're putting out there? And that's
Right.
where you do need a third-party validation, where they take away the vendors and create a neutral playing ground, so that you can compare vendors in the same light, under the same circumstances, and actually see how they behave. And that's why I think ICSA is a great report to use.
Right. And I think another important thing for, just general knowledge is, these things are not, they are not charitable organizations. They are not nonprofits. It is an investment that any company makes when it comes to any certification, from our PCI level compliance to this, as it is an investment that SonicWall is making in showing that they're committed to bringing an innovative product to market, not just innovative, but effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what is the greatest impact you've seen Capture ATP have in customer environments? And obviously, that Cerdant manages, thousands of SonicWall firewalls in customer environments. And, I can certainly speak to our use of the feature and what it's done in catching things and adding just kind of a really unbelievable layer of protection. But what have you seen on your side?
So I'm gonna go back to the some data points from threat reports here. In the last 6 months, we collected about 2.5 billion malware attacks. There was about 2.5 trillion with a T intrusion attempt done in the first 6 months of this year. I actually did a search on CISA's website, and there were 15 CERT alerts for just the first half of the 2021. Okay, wow. So for an average organization, whether it's an SMB or an enterprise, it's very hard for you to keep track of everything that's going on out there and be able to track all the alerts that are coming and be able to go and investigate it to make sure that, do I need to block this thing? Do I need to let it go? How far do I need to investigate this thing? How far down the road do I need to go to understand what's going on out here? What SonicWall's technology offers you is that peace of mind that says, I got this, go and spend your time on something more important, okay? Go take care of that networking issue that you have. Go figure out, open up a ticket for that coffee machine that's not working. Right. But we got this thing covered for you. You can spend your time on stuff that's more important to your organization, as opposed to having to track down individual alerts from your security systems. That's the benefit. The peace of mind is the benefit that I hear from our customers when I talk to them. Yeah,
because it's a no lift. It is a no lift solution. Yeah. It is there doing its job, and exactly, to repeat, it is there doing its job so you can be doing other things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that falls into the innovative side of things. I wanted to make sure we touched on, really and ask the question and make sure I'm not missing anything is, really what is SonicWall continuing to do to innovate and stay ahead of things? And, I was hoping, at the top of my list is RTDMI, the real-time deep memory inspection that you touched on just a little bit ago, but, dig into that a little bit for me and talk about what SonicWall is doing to keep, even keep that growing.
Sure. So we spend a significant amount of resources maintaining our security portfolio. Okay.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that the level of security that we offer is second to none to our customers. This goes above RTDMI, whether it's firewall, VPN, endpoint, email. We try to do the same thing, or cloud security. We try to do the same thing for all our products. The reason that RTDMI is important is because it's the brain and the sandboxing technology that connects to all of them. So you could be using any of our technology and connect to RTDMI. Mm-hmm. So that's why it makes it so unique in its position within our portfolio. The reason that is different and offers the benefit that it does is because it's a memory-based inspection technology. Okay, it allows you to look at the program execution at the real time and decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Let me give you an example and tell you how that differs from some of our competitors. Great. A lot of sandboxing technologies out there are behavioral based, which is good, but they're easy to be get impacted by evasive techniques. They're prone to false positive because would-be malware writer could write a program that imitates a good program, and therefore, if you're looking at the behavior of the program, you could say, "Oh, yeah, this one looks okay. I'm not going to worry about it." But if I'm looking at it at the individual CPU instruction level, by that time you're just about to execute that command, and there's no pretending. You know exactly what that command is doing. You know exactly where it's going, and you can decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. That's the advantage that we bring in that most of other vendors out there don't have. This is what causes us to have a great detection with the lowest false positive possible, and that's the benefit that you get out of our technology.
Amazing. That's a great explanation of the memory-based versus behavior-based. And because again, that is something that can be very confusing. And also, especially the behavioral analysis piece of things and anything that's AI driven and innovating at that level, it's yes, it's obviously a defined function, but it's also a buzzword. It's a big buzzword right now, and I think it's difficult to really kind of understand. Like, yes, it's exciting and it's different and it's not signature based, but it has its shortcomings as well. Something that's strictly behavior based. So, no, exactly. That's great. Well, I really appreciate the time. Is there anything? I want to be respectful of your time today. Is there anything that you think we missed?
No, I think you covered it all. The only thing I want to add to this is I like to encourage your audience to go to SonicWall.com and look at the latest threat reports that's out there. You can download it for free, take a look at it. There's a lot of good information out there that's relevant to your organization, frankly, and you should be able to track that and use it in your to decide what is it that you need to do and what level of knobs do you have to play around with to get the best protection out of the environment.
Yes, 100% agree. And we'll make that available for viewers and listeners as well. And one thing that I actually did, I did forget to ask you, SonicWall's capture, oh man, I might be missing the name of it. Not capture ATP, but the threat center that was on the website as well. The real-time threat center where you can see a lot of the data in real time. Yeah, the Capture Labs. Thank you. Does SonicWall still have that live?
Yes. Yeah, we actually have we've released a new version of that where we've consolidated all the technologies into a single URL. I don't have it with me, but I believe it's capturelabs.sonicwall.com. And if your audience goes there and clicks there, you can see everything that's on the Capture Lab in the same screen, so to speak.
Yes, thank you. And I'll make sure to double check that URL and provide it in the notes as well. But that is an amazing tool for just truly real-time information. Not only is it beautiful, but it's useful. And
Yes.
that is the combination. Lots of reports and lots of real-time things like that. They look good, but how is it useful? And so that's what I love about that. It's both. Okay, Kayvon, thanks again for joining me and helping us dig into the ICSA certification a little bit more. And congratulations to SonicWall, and thank you for continuing to deliver on the promises. And everyone, thank you again for joining us and listening to another edition of Cerdant Bytes.
Thank you.